The clinking of silverware stopped the moment I stood up from the table. Everyone froze, forks suspended halfway to their mouths, as my daughter-in-law, Claire, smirked across the table like she'd just scored a victory in some cruel little game. "Maybe if you'd planned your life better, Dad, you wouldn't be depending on us now," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Some people just don't understand financial responsibility." My grandson, little Oliver, looked up at me with wide, confused eyes. My son, Thomas, stared down at his plate, shame burning in his cheeks. And me? I simply smiled, because she had no idea who I used to be. I'm not just Grandpa John, the quiet old man who waters the plants and watches the evening news from the corner chair. Once upon a time, I was John Caldwell, decorated intelligence officer, strategist, and problem solver for the British military. My name used to carry weight in rooms where a single mistake could cost lives. But none of that mattered now. To Claire, I was just an old man who had moved in because his pension didn't stretch far enough. She never bothered to ask why I kept my affairs so private, or why I never used credit cards, or why certain people still called the house from blocked numbers and addressed me as Sir. To her, I was a burden, and tonight she decided to make an example of me. It all started when she invited her friends over for dinner, all wealthy couples from her social circle, full of smug smiles and shallow laughter. They came dressed in silk and tailored suits, sipping wine that cost more than my first car. "Thomas, darling, don't you think it's a bit cramped with your father staying here?" one of them said, looking at me like I was a piece of old furniture. Claire chuckled. "Oh, it's fine. We're trying to help him out. Bless him, he never really planned for retirement." The words hit like a slap. The table erupted in polite laughter, and even my son didn't defend me, but I stayed calm. Years of interrogations and tense negotiations had taught me that silence is the sharpest blade of all. When the laughter died down, I set my glass down gently and said, "You're right, Claire. I didn't plan for this. I planned for something bigger." She blinked. "Oh, and what's that supposed to mean?" I smiled faintly. "Survival." The room went quiet. After dinner, while everyone drifted into the lounge, I excused myself and went to my room, or rather, the guest room they'd turned into my quarters. I sat at my old oak desk and opened the drawer, revealing an old leather-bound folder. Inside were letters, commendations, and photographs, proof of a life she couldn't begin to imagine. But I wasn't going to show her those. No, I had something better in mind. The next morning, I woke early and made breakfast. Pancakes for Oliver, coffee for Thomas, and tea for Claire. She looked surprised, maybe guilty, but I acted as though nothing had happened. Then I told her, "I have a small errand today. I'll be back in time for dinner." She gave me that same condescending smile. "Of course, John. Just don't get lost." I didn't go far. Just downtown to an old friend's office. Colonel Harris, now retired like me, but still consulting with the British Embassy. He owed me more than a few favors. When I explained what I needed, he laughed. "You're not changing, are you, John? Teaching lessons to the ungrateful." "Not teaching," I said. "Reminding." He nodded and made a call. By the time I returned home that evening, a sleek black car was parked outside the house. Two men in suits stood by it, talking quietly into earpieces. Claire's face turned pale when she saw them through the window. I stepped inside, pretending not to notice her alarm. "Dad," Thomas said nervously, why are there government men outside our house?" Before I could answer, one of the men entered the doorway, saluted me sharply, and said, "Con Caldwell, sir. We finalized the arrangements you requested." Claire's wine glass nearly slipped from her hand. I turned to her with a calm smile. "You remember last night when you said I should have planned better for my future? Well, it turns out I did." The agent handed me a folder. "Your pension review has been completed, sir. With your classified service record now declassified, you're entitled to back pay and commendation benefits. I nodded. Thank you, Captain. He saluted again and left. Thomas looked stunned. Dad, what is this? I leaned back in my chair. Just some old business that needed sorting. Seems I'm not quite the freeloader I was made out to be. Claire's cheeks flushed red. I didn't mean... Oh, but you did, I said softly but firmly. And that's all right. You only saw what you wanted to see, an old man with nothing left. You didn't know the battles I fought, the people I lost, or the country I helped protect so your son could grow up safe. I stood up slowly. You thought you were embarrassing me last night. But Claire, humiliation only works on those who've never known real danger. She stammered something, but I didn't hear it. I walked out to the garden where Oliver was playing with his toy soldiers. He looked up and grinned. Grandpa, are those men spies? I chuckled. Something like that, lad. Were you a spy? I smiled. Let's just say I helped the right people win the wrong wars. He nodded seriously, as only a 6-year-old can. Inside, I could hear Claire whispering to Thomas, her voice hushed and trembling. I knew she'd apologize later. She always did when pride caught up to guilt. But I wasn't angry anymore. I'd made my point. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't shouting or fighting back. It's letting people realize the truth on their own. That the person they tried to belittle once carried the weight of worlds they couldn't even imagine. That night, as I sat by the window sipping my tea, Claire quietly entered the room. John, she said softly, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I looked at her, and for the first time she didn't look like the enemy. Just a woman who'd never learned respect until she saw what it truly meant. I know, I said. Just remember this, Claire. Respect isn't about titles or money. It's about understanding the battles people have fought to stand where they are. She nodded, eyes glistening. You have my respect, John. Truly. I smiled faintly. Good. Now, let's eat dinner. And next time, don't underestimate an old man, especially one who used to be me.